Year 93 of the Sand Era. The people of the Mud Whale live peacefully on their island that drifts along the endless sandy sea. Chakuro, the activist of the ship, discovers a mystery girl, Lycos, during a scouting trip to an island in the Sea of Sand. Chakuro, Oni, and Lycos arrive on the island Lycos. Lycos states that in the outside world that Oni yearns for soldiers without emotions, the apatheia, wage countless wars. After they return to the Mud Whale, Lycos and Chakuro view the flight of the Star Locust, but afterward, the peaceful days of the Mud Whale came to an end. Soldiers aboard a small boat appear and begin to indiscriminately attack the inhabitants of the Mud Whale. Armed soldiers from an airship invade the Mud Whale. With the help of their themia, the invaders use their weapons to kill any of the residents they come in contact with. Sensing that something is strange is amidst the upper parts of the Mud Whale, Oni demands to his guards that he can be released from his confinement. Chakuro awakens after being shot at by the invading soldiers and sees that Sammy died trying to protect him. Immediately, a soldier with a long chain flail approaches the two, so Chakuro escapes with Sammy's corpse in his arm. A disconcerted So witnesses the onslaught and recalls that Chakuro and Sammy are still at the plantation field. Starting to regain some of her emotions, Lycos uses her themia to retaliate against the invaders. Oni and his prison guard reach the surface of the Mud Whale and witness the invasion that is occurring. Meanwhile, an unnamed man reads documented orders of the soldiers' goal that they have to accomplish on the Mud Whale. As Lycos runs off to fight against the invaders, she's pursued by So, who runs into a group of kids. In the group is Shinano, who informs So of Taisha's death. Perturbed by this outcome, So has Shinano gather everyone to the concourse, in that he'll try to negotiate with the attackers. Elsewhere, Oni uses his themia on a bunch of soldiers that attacked and killed a couple of his moles. With all of the remaining residents congregated in the concourse, Ginshu accompanied two others from the vigilante corps to introduce herself. She suggests that they counterattack, but Sue retorts that violence would breed more violence, and wishes to negotiate with the invaders. He firmly believes that Taisha would want to do this. However, this belief comes into question as Sue witnesses Oni fight and kill several of the invaders. As Chakuro embraces the corpse of Sammy and is slowly surrounded by the enemy, a group of children arrive looking for their brother Toby. One of the soldiers then tries to kill the children but is stopped by Chakuro. The soldier then whacks him out of the way, so then Chakuro uses his themia to defend himself against the soldier. Amid this, Lycos uses her themia to disarm the surrounding soldiers around Chakuro. She is then approached by the leader of the invading soldiers, accompanied by two soldiers. The leader requests that she return with him to Cyclos, but she refuses. Lycos then goes to Chakuro's aid while the leaders order his men to notify Arachne of the situation. Amid this, a young man named Liontari rushes towards Skylos and embraces her. After Liontari babbles on about the joy of being able to massacre innocent lives, he touches Sammy's corpse, which triggers Chakuro. So, Liontari restrains Chakuro in seeing him cry, wishes to see him cry more and then just kill him. Lycos unarms Liontari with her themia, while Liontari confronts Lycos and jokingly asks if her retaliation allows him to kill her. A horn signal is blown, causing the soldiers to retreat. The message from Commander Orca, Lycos' older brother, is that she is to remain stationed at the Mud Whale and now be called Sample 4. Before leaving, Liontari promises he'll be back one day. That night, Liontari visits Orca in his room and asks his reason for using his sister as an experimental sample on the Mud Whale. Orca concisely answers that he's merely fulfilling his own missions. Back on the Mud Whale, the wounded are tended to, and Oni warns in a week's time the invaders shall return. The following day, a mass funeral is held for those who died in the massacre the day prior. After the death of Lady Taisha, Sue is appointed as the new chief of the Mud Whale. However, Sue learns that the Council of Elders is planning to sink the Mud Whale beneath the Sea of Sand, with everyone still on it. He is then imprisoned by the Council beneath the ship. Neri attempts to warn Chakuri of what the Council is planning. Soon, a mysterious force appears to take over Neri's body and show Chakura visions of the dead and living. With the help of several of his friends, manages to get into the bowels of the ship where they find Neri and a mysterious creature. Deep in the bowels of the Mud Whale, Chakuro and his friends discover that Noah's that powers the ship. The elders attempt to kill it, but Lycos and Chakuro manage to stop them. Neri, who calls the Nose mother, disappears into it. Meanwhile, Oni and Shuan's fight concludes, with Shuan's eyes being revealed. Suo is then released from his prison and readies himself as the new chieftain of the ship. Lycos reveals to them more about the world. Suo then speaks to prepare the inhabitants of the mud whale for the attack in 4 days. The inhabitants of the mud whale prepare for the attack in 4 days. Yurumi and her friends talk to Lycos, offer her some new clothes, and ask her about the upcoming attack. At a meeting between Suo and his aides, the elder Rasha appears and questions if what they're doing is the right thing. Meanwhile, Nibi recalls his past with Oni, whose origin seems to be a mystery. After getting thrown into the bows together after a fight, Nibi promises to take Oni to the outside world, and they become friends. Chakuro meets Amy, Neri's twin sister, who promises to tell him all of the secrets of the mud whale if he comes back alive from the attack on Skylos. Suo gives a final speech to the inhabitants of the mud whale. They have a moment of brevity in the sand festival. On the day of the attack, a sandstorm occurs, reducing visibility. Chakuro, Lycos, Oni, and Ginshu are all chosen to take part in the attack on Skylos. Nibi demands to be taken along as well. As the attacking team prepares to leave, they see the first attackers from Skylos. As Chakuro, Oni, Lycos, and the rest of the infiltration force prepare to take off, the mud whale is attacked by the soldiers of Skylos. The scene then cuts to Skylos' commanders, and a strange device is seen that is used to control the no Skylos. The Skylos invaders reach the mud whale, then Nibi ends up tagging along with the infiltration force. Ama sings a song as the attack begins. The fighting on the mud whale begins with casualties on both sides. Meanwhile, the infiltration force manages to fight off the soldiers of the Skylos and proceed deeper into the ship. Arachne orders that Lycos be killed alongside with the other intruders from the mud whale. Suo goes off on his own once he hears that the invaders have managed to infiltrate one of the towers. Elder Hakuju manages to protect some of the children from the invading soldiers. Plunging off of a tower together with them, Suo runs over to him as he lays dying, hears his last words before Lyantari appears and finishes him off. Suo attempts to fight back using a sword taken from the invaders, but is brutally defeated. Right before Lyantari kills Suo, Shuan stops him. The raiding party, meanwhile, has gotten closer to the nose. They split into 2 parties, one to destroy the nose, containing Tokusa, Yurumi, and Lycos, and another to guard the entrance, containing Chakuro, Oni, Ginshu, and Nibi. Lycos notices that there is a disturbing lack of guards in their way. Right as Lycos' party nears the nose, the soldiers of the Skylos launch a surprise attack, and Chakuro rushes up to see what happened. It is then revealed that the attack killed everyone but Lycos and Yurumi. The majority of the Skylos' infiltration force are killed in a surprise attack by the soldiers on the ship. Tokosa remembers a childhood memory of Suo and apologizes to him in his dying breath. Lycos and Yurumi manage to survive by hiding behind a curtain, but Lycos runs out to confront Pagani, the leader of the attack. Pagani recognizes her as Commander Orca's sister. Lycos asks him if her brother planned to launch the surprise attack, as custom states that no blood is to be spilt in front of the nose, and he only would be willing to break that taboo. Pagani tells her to just give up, but she refuses, unsheathing her knife. Suddenly, Oni appears and takes Pagani hostage, holding a sword to his throat. Chakuro appears as well, asking Lycos if she's okay, and sees the dead bodies of his comrades. Chakuro steals his resolve and runs off with Lycos to kill the nose of the ship. As they near the nose, Chakuro senses someone inside. Then, a gunshot rings out. Arachne, the ship's captain, has shot Oni in his leg, and he falls to the ground. As Chakuro screams his name, Nibi hears it. Nibi, Ginshu, and a member of Ginshu nicknamed Moja Moja are under attack by the gunfire at the entrance. Ginshu states that the 3 of them will just have to hold the fort together, but when she turns around, Nibi has vanished. Meanwhile, Ama is still dancing ominously on a fish near the mud whale. Strange, ethereal hands begin to appear with the inhabitants of the mud whale, questioning what's going on. 2 Imperial soldiers converse, discussing the attack. Lyantari and Shuan continue their fight. Suo, watching, spots an injured child and goes to help her. When he picks her up, the hands of Neri appears and he is shown a vision of Lyantari's past. Mid-fight, Suo grabs Lyantari's legs and tells him that she had seen into his heart and can stay on the mud whale. Before he can answer, Lyantari is attacked by Shuan, who lectures Suo, stating that no one would accept living with someone who had killed so many of their comrades. Lyantari retorts that he never said he wanted to live with them and rushes at Shuan, weaponless. Shuan then hits Lyantari with the pieces of his broken staff. Before he can finish him off, Suo tells him not to kill him. Lyantari then crawls away, seriously wounded in an emotional breakdown. He comes across a group of children who shot him with arrows. He then rolls off of the mud whale and into the sea of sand while Amy watches. The scene then cuts to Amy and Jiki, who have stayed in their hideout to watch over the unnamed prisoner that they captured. As Kicha thinks about Oni and Nibi, who have left for Skylos, Shikon and Shikoko pop in. They claim that Nibi is always clinging to Oni and claim that the Oni is being used as a pawn by the unmarked. Kicha yells that it was Oni's own choice to go to Skylos and says that he'll be back. Back at Skylos, Arachne tells Pagoni to finish Oni off, but before that happens, Arachne receives a report from a grunt and tells Pagoni to wait. Arachne calls Oni a daimonis, a cursed mad warrior created on the Phalaena. While pointing his sword at Oni, Arachne calls the mud whale a fairy tale land, stating that they had regressed their culture instead of advancing it, and created a false paradise built on ignorance. He hints that he knows the reason why they are so short-lived and states that he will erase the people of the mud whale. Arachne continues to threaten Oni. Meanwhile, back from the mud whale, the attack continues. Maiso, firing arrows from behind a barricade, finds himself weakening due to Themia overuse. Maiso then spots Kuchiba, wandering towards the enemy forces, and calls out to him. Kuchiba ignores him and picks up a sword, set on avenging Mayor Taisha. But before he can fight, Maiso strikes down the enemy forces with some arrows. One of their soldiers survives and comments on how unseemly their emotions are. Kuchiba knocks off their masks to reveal that the enemy was a young girl. She taunts them, asking if they can kill her, and Maiso kills her, stating that he'll avenge Mayor Taisha. Kuchiba wishes for it all to stop, and Maiso wonders what his daughter would have been like had she survived. Meanwhile, on Skyros, Arachne continues to threaten Oni. He tells Pagoni to finish Oni off, but Nibi jumps down and saves Oni. The two kill Pagoni together and continue to take out enemies until Nibi is killed when he turns his back on the enemy to help Oni. Oni loses control and mindlessly lashes out with his Themia, which changes to dark indigo. He ends up directly killing several Apathia soldiers and the noose. A joint mass funeral between the residents of the mud whale and soldiers of Skylos is held. During it, Shuon requests a lock of his wife Sienna's hair as a memento. He's soon approached by his mother, Rasha, and chastised by her for his devilish smile. Time passes and life on the mud whale slowly returns to normal. In Oni's room, Kicha watches over her leader as he rests on his bed. At that moment, Suo arrives with some medicine for the wounded Oni. Kichi blames Suo for picking him to be on the attacking team and pushes him away as he tries to embrace her in the form of an apology. The children that came with Suo put gifts on his bed and graciously thank him. Afterward, Lycos is questioned by the remaining committee of elders. It concerns the recent attack from Skylos and information on Nos. Both Chakuro and Nezu furtively eavesdrop on the conversation. They'll soon find out when a Kokola given to Chakuro by Olivinus awakens and runs amok. Once he finally catches it, Chakuro wonders if anything will ever be the same again for the people of the mud whale. Meanwhile, Orca and his record keeper, Itia, enter Orca's room with his jesters in it. As the jesters act in a jovial and amusing manner, they're silenced by a wounded Lyantari. This surprises Itia as he listed him dead in the line of action. Begging Orca to be able to return to the mud whale, Orca follows it if Lyantari becomes his jester. Initially refusing, Lyantari is forced to become one after being surrounded by the other jesters. While the residents of the mud whale bathe in the collected water areas, the majority of which are females, a ship approaches the mud whale. It is noted, however, that the ship is not from the Empire. Suo sees this as an opportunity to make new allies. Rochalizo and his crew land on the mud whale and are greeted by the nude Suo. Fluster's Phony and Fraterna of Rochalizo's crew. Stepping in, Rochalizo introduces himself and his background to Suo. After an embarrassing moment where Suo realizes he's nude, Rochalizo announces his plan to the annex, the mud whale. Although Suo wanted to be polite at first, this changes as he then believes Rochalizo and his crew to be nothing more than usurpers. This notion makes Rochalizo act in an apprehensive manner by pointing his gun at Suo. Sequentially, Shuon disarms the visitor and has his soldiers armed with bows and arrows aimed at them. Rochalizo's advisor, Ganba, suggests they surrender. They do so and are well fed. Soon, Chakuro chases after Lycos, noting her strange behavior since the arrival of Rochalizo and his crew. In his pursuit of Lycos, Chakuro runs into Ama, who has Takosu on her shoulder. After Chakuro requests that Ama live up to her end of the bargain for revealing secrets about the mud whale to him after the last battle, Ama agrees to do so and more. At that moment, the Chikosu on Ama's shoulder sprouts giant effervescent wings on its back that change the direction of the ship. Ama then reveals that Chikosu acts as a rudder for the ship and that the mud whale is originally a ship full of exiles. She then disappears in the portal of light. That night, the residents of the mud whale are visited by a small girl who enters their dreams, sings a song, then does a prayer, and then leaves in their tears. In order to determine the responsibility of the destruction of No Skylus, Acme and Orca are summoned by the top brass of the Imperial Army. Although the two were sentenced to death, Orca's rebuttal shifts the course of the scenario. Continuing the scene were the twin brothers Shikuku and Shikon of the newly established group called the Violent Wings. The twins coerce Oni to join their cause. On the other hand, Oni snaps and breaks the flag that the twins once waved in honor of their new group. After Oni does this, the people that gathered and watched the scene disperse. Later, Chikaro, Ro, Nezu visit Meso, who's in a very drained and languid state. Meanwhile, Orca and Idia ride on a carriage until they're ambushed by assassins sent by Atsali. Lyantari intervenes and while singing a jovial tune, he kills them with a juju shuriken infused with his themia. Afterward, Orca visits Atsali and introduces him to Idia, his soon-to-be fiancé. Later, as the two ride their carriage back home, Orca divulges his plans for world domination to Idia. The record keeper, although hesitant to accept this, is reassured by her fiancé. The following day on the mud whale, Meso is given a funeral. As this goes on, Shuon approaches Oni and perhaps compliments him for not crying about the loss of Meso. Oni, however, retorts that Shuon may have cried when he lost Sienna. That night, Neri visits an emotionally sad Lycos. Neri offers to console Lycos by escaping the mud whale by flying away. In Chikaro's room, he starts to doze off. Chikaro recalls the days when he was younger and his grandfather, Koger, and an old friend, Sammy, were still alive. The following day, Suo makes an announcement to all of the marked people about the truth of their role on the mud whale. The truth sparks an outcry with the twins, Shikon and Shikoku, who call out the unmarked for their outlandish selfishness. Shikon then attacks Suo with a rock infused with his themia, and the target takes it without hesitating to dodge it. Ginshu then scolds the twins for their violent behavior. The twins then try and attack Ginshu with a barrage of themia-infused rocks, but Oni defends her from them with his stick. He then reminds them that on all the battles prior, many of the people that died marked and unmarked alike, all of whom were ignorant of the truth. Therefore, they shouldn't speak in a pejorative manner towards those who withheld the truth. Soa then speaks again, corroborating the fact that it was never the intention of those who created to suppress the marked so they could live in fear. It was so they could live in peace for as long as they so could. At that moment, the mud whale enters what's called Felina's cage. Suo then proclaims to his people that now the mud whale has a rudder. They can direct it towards new places to meet new allies and such. It's then that Takasu once again its effervescent wings and steers the mud whale to places unknown. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to let us know by leaving a like, subscribe for more stories, and check out other stories here.